Hey, what's poppin', y'all? Hey, check this out, man. If y'all hear any noise in the background, they outside tearing the street up. You know what I'm saying? They out there remodeling the streets, putting sidewalks outside. So if y'all hear a little noise in the background, I denoised it the best I can. You know what I'm saying? I apologize. But I do gotta drop these videos. Now this video right here, you already seen the thumbnail. So what it is basically Big Shaq trying to board a plane. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know what Shaq paper at. You know what I'm saying? Don't nobody stay in nobody's pocket like that, but we know he can have first class tickets in the plane, on a plane, if he don't have his own plane. You know what I mean? But check this out though, but just to show that you can't just judge a book by its cover, and then just because somebody is a certain color or look a certain way or whatever, that they may not have the means that you think that they have, and then come to find out he may have way more money than you ever had in your life. You know what I'm saying? And can buy the plane that you own and get you fired from your job just for discriminating. But what it is, man, we finna take a look at this, like how not to treat people, you know what I'm saying, because of their color, because of what they may have on, because of just their appearance at that moment. You can't judge nobody by that. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what nobody's bank account look like. So stop judging people like that. You know what I'm saying? I'ma always play like I'm just a mediocre, in the middle, just never brag about nothing ever again. You know what I'm saying? Just stay copacetic, because you can lose it all. But we finna take a look at this, man, Big Shaq. You know what I'm saying? To see what happened to the lady after she found out he was Shaq. Let's check it out, man. Holla at your boy. Like, share, subscribe. Let's go.
Woman refused to let Big Shaq board first class. She instantly regretted it when he said this. Big Shaq, the larger-than-life basketball legend, was used to blending into a crowd when he wanted to. Despite his towering height and unmistakable frame, he'd had a way of keeping a low profile whenever he wasn't in the spotlight. It was one of those days. He wore simple clothes, a hat pulled low over his eyes, and had his hood up, concealing his well-known features. Today was meant to be a peaceful trip, a first-class journey to visit a charity organization he'd been supporting for years. The airport was bustling with travelers moving like waves, all flowing toward different gates, checking in and boarding planes to destinations unknown. Big Shaq stood in the first-class line, patiently waiting for his turn. Though it wasn't unusual for him to fly first class, he wasn't interested in any special treatment. He just wanted to enjoy the journey, stretch his legs, and, above all, get some well-deserved rest. But peace was not going to come that easily on this trip. A woman appeared at the corner of his vision, and it was clear she was angry. She was marching in his direction, her face set in a scowl. She was a slender woman with sharp features that suggested she was used to getting her way. Her name was Patricia, though Shaq had no way of knowing that at the time. Patricia was upset. First, her flight had been delayed, and now she couldn't believe that she was seeing a black man standing in first-class line. She assumed he didn't belong there. She cut directly in front of Shaq, her tone dripping with contempt as she turned to him. "Excuse me, you must be in the wrong line. The economy line is back that way." She pointed dismissively without bothering to look him in the eye. Shaq pulled his hood down slightly, revealing his confused expression. He replied calmly, "No, ma'am, I'm in the right line. I have a first-class ticket just like you." He kept his voice level, hoping to diffuse the situation before it escalated. Patricia didn't let it go. Instead, she doubled down, her voice rising. "There's no way you're in the right place. You must be mistaken. People like you don't belong in first class." Her voice
Automatic
was dripping
racism.
with arrogance
Come on, man.
and an underlying prejudice that seemed all too familiar to Shaq. He sighed, trying to keep his composure. "Please, let's not make this a problem. I'm just trying to get to my destination. I assure you I have every right to be here." His words were measured, his eyes locked on hers, hoping that reason might help her understand. But Patricia had no intention of letting this go. She was irate, and it showed. "If you don't move right now, I'll call security. This is first class, and I won't let anyone cut the line, especially not someone like you." The people around them began to turn and watch the commotion. Some exchanged knowing glances, others whispered among themselves, but no one stepped in. Shaq tried one more time. "Look, lady, I'm here because I bought a ticket, just like you. There's no reason for all of this." He gestured at her theatrics, trying to appeal to her better judgment. But Patricia's condescending glare only hardened. "You think you can talk your way into places you don't belong?" she spat. "Let's see what security has to say about this." And with that, she turned, waving her arm toward a nearby security officer. Shaq stood there, feeling frustration rise within him. He was trying so hard to keep the situation from becoming more than it needed to be. But there was only so much disrespect a person could take, even for someone as level-headed as Shaq. And so, as Patricia summoned airport security, Shaq made a decision. The security officer approached quickly, his eyes flicking between Patricia and Shaq. Patricia immediately went on the offensive. "This man is trying to get in the first-class line, and he clearly doesn't belong here. He's causing a disruption," she snapped, pointing at Shaq as if he were some kind of criminal. The security officer, visibly unsure of what was happening, turned to Shaq. "Sir, do you have your ticket on you?" Shaq looked directly at Patricia, then back to the officer. Slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his first-class ticket, holding it out for the officer to inspect. "Here it is," he said quietly. The officer glanced at the ticket, then back at Patricia, who was glaring at Shaq, her face twisted with indignation. The officer nodded to Shaq. "This is a valid first-class ticket. He's where he's supposed to be, ma'am." Patricia looked stunned, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "That can't be right," she stammered. "Are you sure? People like him—" Shaq had had enough. He pulled down his hood completely, revealing his face fully to her and everyone watching. There was a collective gasp from those around them as they began to realize exactly who was standing
Excited,
before them.
like, oh.
"I tried to be reasonable," Shaq said, his voice still calm but carrying an undeniable weight. "But you wouldn't let it go. You want to know who I am?" He took a step closer to Patricia, who was now visibly flustered, her bravado starting to crack. "I'm Shaquille O'Neal. I bought this first-class ticket just like you did, and now you're causing a scene for no reason other than what I look like." Patricia's eyes widened, and her face turned a deep shade of red as recognition hit her. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The bystanders, who had been silent until now, began murmuring amongst themselves, and some even laughed at the irony of the situation. "You see, the one thing about people like you," Shaq continued, his gaze unwavering, "is that you think you can judge someone just by looking at them. But you never know who you're really dealing with. And now everyone can see how wrong you were." Patricia, embarrassed beyond measure, stammered, I'm sorry, I didn't." Shaq shook his head. "It's not me you need to apologize to. It's all the people you think are beneath you, just because of how they look." He turned to the security officer. "I think it's best if she's escorted out of the line. I'm sure the airline would prefer not to have passengers causing a scene over something like this." The officer nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He gestured for Patricia to follow him, and she, now utterly humiliated, had no choice but to comply. She walked away, her head down, her face still flushed as the whispers and the occasional chuckle followed her out of the line. Once Patricia was gone, the tension in the line seemed to ease. A few people clapped, others patted Shaq on the back, expressing their support for how he had handled the situation. Shaq gave a small nod to those around him, then adjusted his hood again and turned his attention back to the front of the line, ready to board his flight in peace. The woman behind Shaq, who had witnessed everything, leaned forward and said softly, "Thank you for standing up to her. Not everyone has the patience you showed just now." Shaq smiled. "You know, sometimes you just have to try and stay calm, but there's a limit to how much disrespect anyone should take." As Shaq finally boarded the plane, he settled into his first-class seat, hoping the rest of the journey would be less eventful. He took a deep breath, glad that the situation had ended without further incident. He knew this wasn't the first time, and probably wouldn't be the last, that someone judged him based on his appearance. But
Because
today,
he's
he'd make
black.
sure that everyone watching learned a
Not his
valuable
appearance,
lesson
'cause
about
he's black.
respect and equality. Shaq's journey continued, and he eventually made it to his destination, where he was greeted by the smiling faces of the children at the charity he was supporting. The joy in their eyes reminded him why he did what he did, not just as a basketball player, but as a human being committed to making the world a better place, one act of kindness at a time. And maybe, just maybe, by standing up to people like Patricia, he was helping to make that change happen. This story is a powerful reminder that prejudice and discrimination often stem from ignorance and assumptions. Shaquille O'Neal showed incredible patience in the face of blatant disrespect, choosing to handle the situation calmly before ultimately revealing who he really was. His actions teach us the importance of standing up against racism, not with anger, but with dignity and strength. Sometimes it takes confronting someone's misconceptions directly for them to understand the impact of their behavior. The story also highlights how our actions can have lasting consequences, especially when the world is watching. How would you have handled the situation if you were in Shaq's shoes? Would you have kept your composure like he did, or taken a different approach? Let's discuss it in the comments below.
So therefore, hey, what it is basically that was like a learning mechanism on racism right there. So basically, it's like this, man. Just live your life. Stop trying to figure out what somebody else could possibly be doing or how much is in their pocket. Don't be judging books by their cover is what I'm basically saying. We up out of here, though, man. You know what I'm saying? And it's like to the lady, it's like, okay, now you understand. And then to the other people that don't like us or whatever are always trying to down us to say what black people, how they was poor and this and that and that. That's like no more, though. It's like all of us elevated our game some kind of way, shape, or form. We know the recipe now. You know what I'm saying? And then y'all can't put just the poor on us or the poor just on any other race. Because I see them in all races and faces. Out here where we at right now, when I go to the store, I don't be seeing none of us sitting by the store, really. I be seeing other races by the store. That's real talk. So it's like, stop judging books by their cover. You know what I'm saying? And let's all get along while we on this earth. And just keep remembering this. All of us one day, no matter how you act or how you are, if you a real evil person, your day gonna come regardless, though. So don't think that you're never not gonna be unalived. You know what I mean? We up out of here, baby. Coolest dude on YouTube, man. You know what I'm saying? And the lesson for the day is love each other, man, on this big old globe. This is for all of us to live on before we die. But do some work before you leave here to leave an impact everlasting is your goal while you're here. We up out of here. Hit! Hit squad. And reckless. You know what I'm saying? MCDOK, baby. We came to do this. You heard?